Generation X. In general terms, those born between 1965 and 1980. Latchkey kids. Independent. Existentialism. Modern philosophy focusing on personal experience, human ability, and responsibility in an otherwise meaningless universe. We're the cause. This is the effect. We're the Gen X-istentialists. Welcome in, my friends, to the Gen X-istentialist podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
And we're here to grill you over the next 20 minutes or so with some Gen Existential angst.
Well, it's almost Memorial Day, so you're talking about grills and all.
Grills, get out and grill. What kind of stuff would you grill? We don't even have a grill.
We don't either.
Yeah, it's one of those things that how un-American of you. You don't even have a grill?
The funny thing is we've been talking to friends who have a grill because my wife's mother bought us a number of steaks for Christmas.
Steaks for Christmas?
Yeah, they were from
this
convent down in Kentucky where they raise animals. It's like a farm as well.
Yeah.
And they sell grass-fed beef. So she bought us 6 or 7 big steaks. So now we've been looking for people to grab a grill so we can have
and nobody's
real
got
steak.
A grill.
Now we found one friend that does, but unfortunately one of them is a vegan or a vegetarian, so we'll have to bring her a potato or something to eat. Here's a portobello, something like that. But yeah, it's grills. We've been talking about getting one.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of a waste of money personally, but
well, I mean, if we got a grill, I would be compelled to use it at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to spend the money on a grill, you got to grill, and I don't want to gotta do anything.
Okay.
I don't.
I spend too much time cooking in the house as it is. I do all the cooking in the house, so
yeah.
I spend time over a stove all the time anyway, so why do I want to go stand outside in the heat and stand over a fire?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Or if you really love to grill, just replace your stove with a gas stove and just do it inside.
This winter, we were building fires in the fireplace, and I took the advantage of that and threw some yams and stuff in the fire.
Yeah.
While we were having a lovely winter fire, and we also had, baked potatoes and yams and such,
nice.
So it's like, yeah, that's good enough for me.
But see, here's the thing, too. If you're talking about getting a grill, are you talking about like an old-style charcoal grill or like a gas grill?
I'd prefer to get a charcoal grill.
I would, too. That would be my choice.
Now, Hank Hill would yell at me about this.
I'm not a fan of propane for cooking.
Or propane accessories.
Yeah, it just kind of, it doesn't smell right. The stuff doesn't taste right. I'm not a fan of it. But charcoal or over wood, like we've got a fire pit out back. We could, if I got the little stand and stuff, we could cook out there. But, it's a lot of effort. And it's like 200 yards away from the house. I don't want to have to go out there, light the fire, come back in, get the meat, take it out. It just, at a certain point, I'm very much a modern guy. And that's just too much work when I can just cook on the stove.
So see what happens when we don't even spin the wheel. We just start talking about grills for some reason.
Yeah, things just happen. So for those of you that might be new to the show, what we typically do is get on here and we spin Mega Wheel the Magnificent. And on Mega Wheel, we've got thousands of topics.
1,500 plus topics.
1,500 plus topics. So I'm going to spin Mega Wheel right now. And we'll see what kind of actual official topic we come up with here for the first part of the show. And we're spinning and spinning, and we have got, what was your most proud accomplishment in the past year?
Oh, boy. In the last year.
But I think we've done that before. Didn't we?
We did something similar. I think we did one for Lifetime. But
Lifetime?
Yeah.
I thought we did past year. I'm going to spin again.
Okay, sounds good.
It's just way too similar.
Pride cometh before a fall.
Among other things.
That's right.
So spinning Mega Wheel of Magnificent, and our topic is, if you could leave a mark on the world that preceded you, what would it be?
A huge gouge through a major city made by a space laser.
Well, but that kind of ties in with something we were talking about before the show, about leaving a mark and how you want to be remembered and stuff like that.
Sure, leaving behind something.
Yeah, so what would your mark on the world, what do you want to be remembered for, I guess?
I think I want to be remembered for the fact that I was the kind of person that wasn't really ashamed to talk about anything. That I could talk about something completely mundane or talk about something completely heart-wrenching or talk about something completely controversial with you. And it didn't have to come to blows and it didn't have to come to arguments or anything. It's just, I think that's something that Gen X is going to leave behind when we all shuffle off this mortal coil like the silent generation has probably by this point.
Yeah.
Is that I think we're going to be one of the last generations for a while that was just so easygoing to an extent that you could talk to them about anything.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer or a misconception about Gen X, people of our age, that we're so set in our ways and we're all curmudgeonly and everything gets an eye roll. Things that deserve an eye roll get one.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things. We're very open-minded. We will listen to everything. But if you're full of shit, we don't mind telling you you're full of shit.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't get as easily triggered. That's the new cool word that everybody uses, as some younger generations do, where they just refuse to even talk or listen to anything that doesn't fit their current viewpoint in life.
Yeah.
It's completely verboten, and how everyone that's over the age of 25 or so is a boomer to them, and it's this,
meaning they don't even understand what generations are.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to understand things when you're so set in your ways.
I will say this too. I don't think the concept of cancel culture is real. I think that people get upset and they try to write people off, but it never works. I can't think of anybody that's actually been quote unquote canceled. There have been people that might have lost some visibility for a while or not had the same kind of Q rating that they had at one point, but nobody gets canceled.
I think you're looking at that on a macro level of celebrities or athletes or people like that, people of larger stature. I think it's very easy for people to get canceled, to be honest.
Really?
Through doxing, people lose their jobs. People lose their livelihoods. Some people lose their marriages. Some people kill themselves over it, which is pretty bad.
Well, but some of those things you're pointing
cancel
out
culture
are maybe earned.
That's for you, not for you to decide. That's for a higher power or a higher court to decide.
Well, I would agree with that. But like, if somebody is cheating on their wife and somebody outs them,
nobody gets canceled for that per se. People are getting canceled for their political beliefs, for their opinions on who. Let me give you a personal example. I don't know people personally who have been canceled. I see people online who have been canceled.
Canceled as in kicked out of chat forums and things like that?
Canceled as in lost their jobs because someone called their work and said, this person's a Nazi. This person's a racist. This person is a pedophile. This person, whether it's real or not, but it's a way to shut a person down to keep them from
Well, but that's
speaking.
The kind of thing, if somebody's doing that from the point of view of just trying to get somebody in trouble, it's one thing. If somebody does espouse those kind of views and they're in a public forum, you've got to understand the ramifications of your actions and the things you say.
Absolutely.
It's just part of it. Like the whole January 6th thing. If you were one of the people that participated in that, you've got to bear the responsibility of having done so.
Okay.
And the things that you did. Like it's just...
This is where I simply don't agree on that one. I don't believe January 6th was that big of a deal at all. Personally.
Really?
I don't. No, absolutely not. I've seen worse protests in other places. I've seen issues in the past where people have brought firearms into the Capitol, where people have brought bombs into government buildings.
And started firing. Mm-hmm. And those people were let to just go about their business, go back to work the next day and live their life. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But no one did on January 6th. None of the protesters brought in firearms to the Capitol. But they did. No, they didn't. They brought in firearms, but they didn't shoot them off.
How'd the one police officer get killed?
That was outside, and that had nothing to do with a firearm. Wasn't it something where they got
No.
hit or something with a barricade or something goofy
No,
like
shot.
that?
Killed.
Shot. Okay. Well, I was misinformed apparently on that. But yeah, personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. Still. I mean, I've seen worse protests for less, where lots of people were killed, lots of places were burned to the ground, lots of people lost their livelihoods for a lot less. And I think, hey, you know, if they really wanted to have an insurrection, they should have brought it. But they didn't. That wasn't the that wasn't what they were doing. They were having a riot.
Luckily, however luckily this could be taken, it's a minority of people who are so lowest common denominator that they think that kind of reaction is going to work.
Do you feel that way about BLM? Are they lowest common denominator that they'll go out and burn a city to the ground, or
what
try
cities
to
have been burned to the ground?
Let's see. There
have been protests. There have been riots. I agree.
Fiery, mostly peaceful.
Yeah, and
protests.
in general, it's the lowest common denominator.
Just as long as we're all in the same.
It's the lowest common denominator of those groups that devolve and choose violence.
Sure.
That's the part that I hate, whether you're
I
white,
agree.
black, whatever the fuck you are.
Ooh.
If your first idea is, yep, we're going to saddle up and we're going to go to the Capitol. We're going to saddle up and we're going to burn shit. I feel the fucking same way about people in Lexington, Kentucky, that the last time UK won the national championship were burning fucking couches out on the street. Lowest common denominator jack-offs that might as well be just go out in the woods
fired
and
up
shoot
on this
themselves.
topic.
Because violence is never the fucking answer. And here's my point of view, top to bottom. I am a non-violentist.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm not a pacifist, and there's a big difference.
Okay.
You and I can talk about this stuff all day long, no problem. If you choose violence, that's your choice, and I will destroy you.
Oh, okay.
And that's for anybody, whether it's a political movement, whether it's somebody that was part of January 6th, Republican, Democrat, black, white, whatever. Let's sit down and talk. We can find common ground, whether it's music, literature, all kinds of different stuff. Anybody out there, we've got more in common than we've got separating us.
I absolutely
agree. But if
agree.
you choose to ignore the commonalities, if you choose to focus on the dividers, and you choose violence, let's go. It's going to be your choice.
Okay.
I will not stop until you are done.
Some people will say that the fair fight is the fight you've already lost.
Yeah, I would agree. Because that's the thing.
So
once you have chosen violence, like even if we're just out on the street, if I'm loading out from a gig and you're going to try and steal one of my bases,
Sure.
we're going to disagree. And as soon as you resort to violence, I'm going to do whatever it takes. If that means kicking you in the groin immediately as hard as I can, oh, that's not fighting fair. Fuck you. You're the one that chose violence.
Okay.
You're the one that made that choice to take up arms.
I got a devil's advocate for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so how is that? I understand that. Sure. Fight fire with fire. I get it. What I want to know is, what if you're at a protest and the police start firing
It says
dummy rounds into the crowd?
Go back to Kent State. It happens.
You know, so something happens. Should that be met with destruction, violence from the other side?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that justifies most fiery but peaceful riots and protests that we've just talked about. Okay.
Yeah.
See,
for example,
I don't understand
here's
that.
the thing. January 6th, things were set up, whether it was planned this way or not. Reports are out there. You can read everything about it. Security was not as tight as it should be. As soon as people start breaking into the Capitol with ill intent, security at the Capitol starts shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what could have happened. There weren't enough people there. Whose fault was that? We all know the answer.
Okay.
So it's one of those things, if things devolve into violence, you have to accept the ramifications of your decision to do so.
Okay. See, that's where I'm wondering with a commonality, finding common ground with people. You're never going to find that now because
Why?
things always resort to violence.
But they don't.
In these situations. So if Capitol Police are allowed to fire on protesters
Not
because
allowed.
they're breaking into the Capitol,
Your terminology there is...
they are justified in doing that, I guess. 'Cause
potentially
that's their job.
justified. Obviously,
Okay.
you do everything you can to not have to resort to that.
Sure.
But, I mean, let's look at it this way, and we've seen this in bad movies all over the place. The one person gets twitchy and they fire.
Sure.
One person, the one archer,
Yeah.
can't hold the string and lets the arrow go, and it starts everything.
Yeah.
That's why even bringing firearms, even being ready for that kind of stuff. But you know me, I'm not a fan of protests anyway, because people always protest in the wrong place and with the wrong stuff. Like, I understand, we were talking about this before the show, protesters over Gaza and Israel and that situation. What good does it do to have a sit-in on a college campus?
It strokes your ego.
None. Yeah, it's for the people doing the
Yeah.
quote-unquote protesting. It's not going to have any effect.
Yeah, get your points with your group that you want to get points with. You know, that's all it does.
If you want to do something there, write letters, go to your congressperson's office, go to Washington, sit in on the steps there.
So is there ever a point where violence is justified in a protest?
No.
Okay.
Only in defense. And again, that comes back to, if you draw on me, that's your mistake.
I guess that it's all a matter of perspective, as they say. It depends on what you consider violence. It depends on what you consider so offensive to you that you're willing to possibly sacrifice your life to make a change. I mean, that's...
Is there anything? Possibly.
Is there anything that I would sacrifice my life for? Absolutely. I'd sacrifice my life for you. I'd sacrifice my life for my wife.
Okay, that's different.
I'd sacrifice,
you were pointing toward issues. And,
issues?
Yeah.
I have not been presented with any at the moment that really...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what happens in other countries.
That's where I thought you were going with
Here's
this.
where the
If
Gen
we're
X
talking
comes
about,
out,
like,
yeah.
if I saw somebody pulling a gun, would I throw myself in front of you? Yes, I would.
Sure.
You're my best friend. I absolutely would.
Yeah.
For Tracy, yeah, absolutely, I would.
Yeah.
If somebody tried to hurt one of our cats, absolutely, they are going to pay the price for that. So that kind of thing, sure.
Okay.
Those personal things.
But there are some things out there that people get very worked up about. Where it's like, oh, you're denigrating people that I identify with sexually. You're denigrating people that I identify with due to the color of my skin. You're denigrating whatever, whatever class of person. My dad lost his job because of horrible things that your company, your country dictates, let's say. Being very generalized here. Some people are willing to commit violence because of stuff like that. I think about the guy who, you remember Killdozer? The guy who made the fancy, A-team style bulldozer and drove it around town. He was willing to sacrifice his life because he felt that he was so wronged by his neighborhood government.
Yeah.
Would I have thrown my life away for something like that? Probably not. I probably would have just moved. But, I'm not in this person's headspace. I'm not in this person's financial situation, whatever.
And I think for a lot of this stuff,
weird.
it's what you just got at there. Why did that person do it? So to go back to what started this and what got me a little bit enervated there was the January 6th stuff.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? It was literally specifically to try to stop the election process, to undermine it, and to try to prevent what had to occur from occurring. That's the why. And you can jump down, you can do a whole incident investigation and 5 why it out and do an Ishikawa diagram and shit like that. But ultimately that why is what matters a lot too.
Okay.
Because that's your why. Resorting to violence breaking into a building, that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot there that it smells wrong too. The entire situation smells wrong.
Okay.
The whole thing smells like a PR thing. It always did.
Most of everything you see online anymore is a PR thing.
Yeah.
But I can totally see why people do those kind of things, though. It's happened in countries far from us many times over. There have been coups. There have been color revolutions. There have been plain old revolutions. There have been all sorts of things. These happen. This may have been a pathetic attempt at a revolution of sorts. It was, if it was not well thought out, which is why I believe in your situation where, a lot of it was PR, stunt garbage, CIA, PSYOP trash, that you see a lot of nowadays.
I think it was a roll of the dice by some people. Hey, let's see if this works. Sure. It didn't. Who's going to pay the price? Well, the people that we conned into doing
the
it.
3 people that died.
The people that didn't pay enough attention, didn't understand how to use logic and reason to actually figure out.
But how many revolutions are based on logic and reason? Revolutions are based on feelings, emotions, fear, hatred.
Yeah.
Ideas of patriotism or ideas of nationalism. That's what revolutions are based on.
Yeah. And are any of those worthwhile reasons?
I don't know. I mean, how many revolutions have happened in other countries that you consider worthwhile?
French and the American.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because the prior situations were untenable for progress.
I think that's what these people thought. The January 6 people thought.
I think they thought that. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that.
So that's why I can't get too pissy about them, because it was super botched. You were very enervated, as you say.
I was enervated by where you were taking the conversation and by the implications that it wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was.
I thought it was pretty, I thought it was horrifying for a country. But then again, we've got to understand how we view ourselves in the U.S. Versus how we're viewed in the world community.
Yeah. How
we have been viewed for the last 30 years.
Sure.
Radically different than what we think it is.
I think it's very easy to relate things to like an American Revolution or a French Revolution because we can sort of understand. We have enough nationalistic buy-in with those people that we can understand their situation. Whereas South American revolutions, Cuban revolution, Haitian revolutions, things that I'm so far removed from their lifestyle and their way of life, their religions, their cultures, whatever, that I can't really relate to that.
Yeah.
I can't judge another country on whatever kind of revolution they're undertaking.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know the situation.
Well, and it gets back to something we've talked about before. Every hero is a villain in somebody else's story.
Absolutely.
We look at China and we've got a certain point of view, but they look at us the same way.
Yeah.
If you're just a person with a family getting by, going to work every day in China, you probably don't see much problem with the way the government's running, with the way things are set up, because you don't know any differently. And it's not until you travel and you can see different stuff, and God knows I have not traveled enough to really have a point of view that's worth listening to on that particular topic.
Well, I don't really believe anybody can be traveled enough to understand a completely different culture that well.
Right.
I mean, you're not part of that world.
Yeah. You have to immerse yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be part of that world 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You'll never be accepted in that culture fully.
Yeah.
It's integrated because you're not one of them. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I know it goes against the American ideal of the melting pot and all that jazz, but we're the only people that have the melting pot. I'm sorry.
And it's never really, it's been a melting pot in small measure.
Sure.
It's been more like a bunch of different kinds of cheeses that weave around each other, but they never really mix.
Yeah.
We just end up with this big sloppy cheese sauce.
Yeah, it's nothing worse than like nacho cheese, when you pull it up, it's got big nodules and nasty strings. And
the thing is, there's nothing wrong with that either, as long as each one of those strands of the different cheese, there's enough grease that everybody can just slide on by and do their own thing. Suddenly, we've just taken America and turned it into cheese sauce.
Yeah, it's a nacho
which is
situation.
Actually kind of fitting and probably a good way to end the show.
See, that was a really edgy show. Did you like that, kids?
So this has been the Gen X-istentialists. If people want to get in touch with us about this topic, how should they do so?
The best way at the current time is don't dox me. Don't dox me. No, the best way to do it right now is to just drop a line at the Mixcloud page where you found this show.
Yeah, leave us a comment there and tell us if you had the choice to cancel one of us, which one would it be? Kids?
Yeah, you know you want to be on Team Bunny.
Team Scot, and see that's how things go wrong.
Yeah,
that's how things go wrong.
But see, we're going to pull this back around, and we're going to say, remember when we talked about Gen X could talk about anything and not get so. If I had talked to someone in a different generation, I won't name a generation. If I'd talked to someone in a different generation, there would have been reeing and screaming and I'm going to kill you and
triggered.
Yeah, and somebody would have been throwing punches or would have been storming out of the studio with tears in their eyes, needing their comfort. Mushmallow. What are those toys you guys play with? Smushmallows, Squishmallows?
I have
stuff
no
like
idea.
that. I don't know.
And with that, the outro music. This has been the Gen X-istentialists. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next week. My name is Scott.
I'm Bunny.
Have a good one.